Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome to the Computer America Show. We are the nation's longest running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers and technology. Thank you for joining us, everyone. I'm your host, Ben, and hey, we hope that you're doing well. Let's see, computer and technology news today as, we just hang out here, do the news, and everyone, I hope that you are doing well, and I know that you probably missed us yesterday. We did a best of Computer America with Ralph Bond, of course, and hey, that was a lot of fun, but Martin Luther King Day obviously happened yesterday, and we are now back at it, good to go. So everyone, hey, computer and technology news for both segments. We have a lot of stories, everything from Mt. Gox to the FBI investigating about a particular person trying to sell a stolen laptop from the Capitol. That whole mess there. We have that story, and of course some news about Brave, some news about Intel, and I guess just a lot of different news stories, and hey, some breaking tech, some new tech, and it's going to be fun. So everyone, here we go. Before we get to that, computer and technology news is brought to you by Computer America. ComputerAmerica.com, of course, is where you'll find everything that we do here. Past shows, future shows, show notes, video, archives, podcasts, articles, reviews. We have a new article that I'm currently working on myself here in, hopefully later this afternoon. We'll have it posted up to the website. And yeah, it's kind of our thoughts on CES, recap, some highlights, and, just everything in article form that if you've been listening to the show, nothing should really be too much of a surprise there. But I think with that being said, check us out on social media, give us a like, give us a follow. And by the way, I believe, let's see, and let me see if it's up. Over the weekend, I was invited over to I was invited over to Popzara and their team over there with Nathan Evans and Herman Exum. And of course, you can see you can, of course, see it here. Switch over here to this view if you're watching the video show. But yeah, we'll put a link in the show notes as well to this. But CES 2021. And I was invited over there to share the discussion with Nathan and his crew there. It was a lot of fun, and we look forward to it. Great write-up, great podcast. I had a lot of fun, and you can check that out there. Again, link in the show notes. So, all that being said, let's go ahead and do computer and technology news. Okay, so I think let's go ahead and talk about I think, looking at all these different stories, unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, there's just not really a lot of news when it comes to the last couple of days. I don't know if it's just everything happening, kind of politically that's been going on, and also the transitioning of the president. And why I kind of bring that up is that tech companies are very, very observant of that. They want to make sure that they are planning for their next 4 years when it comes to the roadmap and what they can do and what they can reasonably think they can do. I mean, an article that really highlights that kind of thing, which we can lead off with, is this one right here. Let's see. I think it was with obviously a new president. You have a new head of the FCC, so Ajit Pai is leaving. And now you have, where is that article? There's an article here about how Cox is not going to be raising they're not going to be imposing data caps, and I guess it's something that they had been lobbying for this administration to push this through for them, so that they could, kind of do data caps. And nope, they didn't let them do it. This administration and next administration, they aren't even going to try. So that obviously tells you, like I said before, that these companies just are not really, they're not really hopeful that they can get sweeping reforms on their industries. So they need to adjust, they need to change, and going from Republican to Democrat has its own set of issues. So yeah, honestly, that's why I think it's pretty slow news. But we do have some news, and we can go ahead and start with something a little bit higher into, a little bit higher, a higher cause. And I say higher not in terms of like a greater thing, but I mean physically higher. Starlink. Here we go. Check this one out. With the latest Starlink launch, SpaceX to set record for rapid reuse. And SpaceX is going to push this timeline as much as they can, because they really want to reuse these rockets instead of like a 1 month. I think that was their current record, was like a 1 month turnaround, because they send them up and you think that not a lot can really happen to them. They expend their fuel, and then the booster comes back down, lands on the ship, and it's transported back to where, kind of where it belongs. They still inspect it for hairline fractures, any kind of stress, any kind of damage that could have happened during the use of these launches. And it still goes through a super rigorous, and as it should, inspection process. Well, looks like they're trying to crank that up to 11, because Starlink, if they're going to get what they want, and I think Starlink wants something like 17,000 satellites or something like that. A lot of satellites, and they need a lot of rocket trips. So SpaceX is continuing to make strides as it pushes the boundaries of reusing the first stage of its Falcon 9 rocket, saying that on Wednesday morning, the company plans to launch its next batch of 60 Starlink satellites, reusing booster number 1051. This will be the 8th flight of this first stage rocket, setting a new record for the number of uses of any single rocket core. And hey, let's face it, every time after this set it flies, it will again break that record. They said that SpaceX anticipates reaching the milestone of 10 uses for at least one Falcon 9 first stage later this year. Now, the upcoming launch attempt is also notable because it would represent the fastest turnaround for the first stage rocket. This rocket last flew on December 13th. Launching the Sirius XM-7 mission into geostationary transfer orbit. It was a 38-day period. In this 38-day period would significantly beat the previous turnaround, which was about 51 days. So I said about a month. I was wrong. It was about a month and a half. 51 days, and now you're looking at 38 days. So the Starlink mission is scheduled to launch at 8 a.m. on Wednesday from Cape Canaveral, and its launch was originally delayed 24 hours due to unfavorable weather conditions. And so the company delayed the mission an additional day, saying more time was needed for pre-launch inspection. It's not clear whether this referred to the rocket or the payload. Now, with that being said, this will be the 16th launch of operational Starlink satellites, in addition to an earlier launch of test satellites. Already the largest satellite operator in the world, and that is really the cool part. I mean, these satellites are, they're not, I think, what people really consider satellites. The big bulbousy things that maybe a lot of people would compare them to, like the Hubble telescope. In geostationary orbit, but they're much smaller, just meant to kind of reroute that communication among their own nodes all over, kind of all over the planet. They're much smaller, but there's going to be a lot of them. And fun fact, if you go to a website dedicated, like if you just type into Google, let's see, I think it's like all objects in orbit, something like that. Stuff in space, stuff in one word .space. This website pops right up, and again, if you're watching the video portion, you can see all the different stuff here. And if you go ahead and zoom in on Earth, it's pretty easy to see all the random stuff, and they have everything labeled. And clearly, there's a lot going on here. But if you kind of look around the planet, you can see these very conspicuous, kind of lines of satellites that they're tracking. And like this one right here, yeah, this line is very clearly Starlink. And it shows their current position, their orbit. And these Starlink satellites are going to keep going and go. Well, I should say growing. There's going to be a lot of them. And yeah, hopefully, if he gets his way, internet all over the planet. And hopefully not too much clutter in the night sky to be able to see out. Because again, these things are actually super small. I know that there have been complaints in the past about, them blocking view and, kind of ruining the night sky and that kind of thing. But I'm hoping adverse effects don't happen. So anywho, with that being said, weather conditions for Wednesday's launch look favorable, and both at the launch of the site and recovery zone, the broadcast should go live 15 minutes before it was scheduled to go. And yep, looks like they actually pushed it back to January 20th at 8 a.m. So even further there. Still, it's a huge accomplishment for SpaceX. And, if they get that time down to even like 2 or 3 weeks, if you have, 20 operational stage 1 rockets and you do them on a rotation, you could have a rocket launch every single day, or potentially even multiple rocket launches a day. And then you are really, kind of cooking with gas. You're really doing something special. You turn a multi-billion-dollar venture into just tens of millions of dollars. So very important. And yeah, good job, SpaceX. Let's hope you don't ruin the night sky for everyone, but we'll find out. Okay, so a little bit of an update here. Microsoft, the company. And, well, we have heard rumors of Apple getting into self-driving. Of course, every car company has self-driving, and every ride-sharing company has self-driving cars. Microsoft is not going to be left out. Now, thanks to a $30 billion investment. Well, actually, let's see. Yeah, so I guess this brings their valuation up to $30 billion, but the actual investment was an additional $2 billion of funding from Microsoft into Cruise. Cruise, which was bought by GM for more than $1 billion in 2016 when it had just 40 employees, now has 2,000 staff and amounts for more than 40% of GM's $71 billion market capitalization. Its latest investment round puts it head-to-head with Waymo, the Google sister company, and the world's most valuable autonomous driving startup. Waymo raised $3.2 billion last year at an undisclosed valuation that two people said was more than $30 billion. So Cruise is now being backed by Microsoft, which again, Cruise and GM are working with them, and Waymo, I believe, Waymo might still be kind of on its own, but also working with the likes of Uber, I think. Now, with that being said, Microsoft Chief Executive Officer said that both Cruise and GM would use Microsoft's cloud computing platform Azure to help them scale and make autonomous transportation mainstream. The GM's chief executive and America's largest automotive company would realize even more benefits from cloud computing as we launch 30 new vehicles globally, 30 new electric vehicles globally by 2025, and create new businesses and services to drive growth. In early trading, GM shares rose 10% after the news. So, existing investors GM and Honda also contributed to the latest round, but a specified breakdown had not been disclosed. SoftBank's Vision Fund is another investor in Cruise and invested $2.25 billion in 2018, and at a valuation of $11 billion and topping up its investments in 2019. Yeah, essentially what they're saying is self-driving cars seem to be a good investment, or at least have in the past. Okay, so the article goes in a little bit further. 1 year ago, Cruise unveiled its flagship ride-hailing vehicle, the Origin, an all-electric vehicle resembling a lounge on wheels with no steering wheel or pedals. The bulk of its testing was done by a fleet of modified Chevy Bolts with a backup driver, although late last year it received a permit to remove the safety driver altogether. I know it seems like a slow transition, and if you don't live in one of these major cities where they're testing these things, San Francisco, Scottsdale, Arizona, of all places, if you don't live in one of these large cities, you are still going to have to wait quite a while to see these autonomous cars. But they're on the road. They are on the road. Whether or not you can actually use them, that seems to be more of like a novelty thing. It's not any kind of actual business model just yet, but it's like most technology, it's going to build off of itself faster and faster and faster, and the rate of adoption will become a lot better than what it is today. It's not going to take long before they become commonplace. Not that everyone is going to be using them, but a lot of people will have access to self-driving cars. And the best part about that is that, well, odds are you won't even have to buy one. It will be through a ride-hailing service that is either run through GM, the car company, services like Uber and Lyft that already do ride-sharing, or someone else. They're going to handle it as well. Hey, for all we know, it might even be Apple. We'll find out. Now, I think that's it for that story. And yeah, that's the whole point of it. Microsoft investing heavily in further self-driving car innovation. Let's hope they can do something with it. Speaking of electric cars, I wanted to get to the bottom of this because we hear about new battery technology all the time on the show. It never makes it to market. It never revolutionizes everything. And the fact that this article is already tagged with the label China already puts me on edge. So let's find out a little bit more about this. The headline, new electric car battery can charge in 5 minutes. Saying that, quote, a 5-minute charging lithium-ion battery was considered to be impossible, StoreDot's chief executive Dr. Doran Meyersdorf. Here's the problem. Every time in the past that we have seen things that are rapidly charging, super fast charging, whatever, there is a direct correlation between charging time and expenditure time. The reason that some of the best batteries take so long to charge, and I know that recently we've had increases in rapid charging technology and things like that, but by and large, the slower a battery takes to charge, the slower it takes it to run out of energy. It's because it's creating those bonds, it's creating those chemical bonds within, and it will release its energy slower. So whenever you hear and really they're more capacitors than they are batteries, but whenever you hear these stories about battery takes 12 seconds to reach a full charge, yeah, but then you read how long it takes to, or how long it can last, and it's in the neighborhood of a minute that it can actually power something. So super fast charging generally means super short battery life, or battery duration. Let's find out why this isn't going to work, and I'm hoping that I'm wrong. If this is really revolutionary, I'd love to be wrong. Now, they said that a new electric car battery that can be fully charged in 5 minutes has been manufactured for the first time on a normal production line in China. And that is from an Israeli company called StoreDot. The breakthrough could address a significant concern for drivers, the fear of running out of power during a journey, marooning the vehicle for a couple of hours while it charges. And yeah, right now that is the problem. That's why there are charging stations at home, at grocery stores, at malls, places where you can do something and not at gas stations. Because, yeah, no one wants to sit at a gas station for like 30 minutes. And I know there are a few at gas stations, but by and large, they're in kind of population centers where they're hoping you get out of your car and go do something. Electric cars take a while to charge, 30, 40 minutes. It's totally not impossible if you're looking for a nice, healthy charge. Now, the chief executive, again, the doctor, said a 5-minute charging lithium-ion battery was considered to be impossible, but we are not releasing a lab prototype. We are releasing engineering samples from a mass production line. This demonstrates that it is feasible and commercially ready. The company produced 1,000 sample batteries with its manufacturing partner, Eve Energy, in China. These samples, which are compliant with Li-ion battery certifications, were manufactured on a normal construction line and will be used to showcase the company's technology to other companies. So-called range anxiety is the number one barrier to adoption for electric vehicles. Again, this idea that if you get an electric vehicle, you can't take it more than 200 miles and potentially, hey, you want the option to, for 99% of the people out there, you aren't going on a regular basis. You are not going to drive 200 plus miles or even 100 miles each way. But having the option is what drives people back to regular gas cars. Fast charging lithium-ion batteries is a significant problem for electronics manufacturers and developers, and companies from Samsung to Daimler have invested in StoreDot. The company's new batteries are designed differently to standard Li-ion ones and replacing the graphite with semiconductor nanoparticles called germanium. Okay. They said that though they hope to remove the silicon in the future, because the speed of the charge is based on the battery rather than the charging point, the invention could have a significant impact on the adoption of electric vehicles, which are facing a bottleneck in countries such as the UK that have limited charging stations. But research by Deloitte suggests the UK will need to spend a lot more money, and this, by the way, coming to us from Sky News, so that's why everything's kind of based in the UK. Let's see, so hybrid electric vehicles combining an electric motor with a petrol or diesel engine are currently more popular, making up 4% of the market share, but they are set to be phased out along with petrol and diesel cars by 2035. After 2035, the UK has already set the hard time limit of there will only be electric cars. So the article unfortunately didn't get into what I was hoping it would. And yeah, so far looks like a lot of articles that are, and sorry everyone, I'm trying to find anywhere that says that these things don't work or anything like that. According to the founder, StoreDot allows an electric car to charge in 5 minutes. In February 2019, this time was readjusted to 5 to 10 minutes. They are listed as BP Ventures, Daimler, and Roman Abramovich as some of its investors. I don't know. I don't know if it can actually do this, if it can actually pull it off. It would be great if it could. I would be very impressed. But generally, they did not talk at all about the lifespan of these batteries. Because sure, you can charge these batteries in 5 minutes, but does that mean that the charge only lasts, an hour instead of the multi hours that you actually need them to? I'm very, very concerned about that. But I'm also a huge fan of just changing up the composition of batteries that can actually lead to fundamental change, because lithium ion, we have nailed that so well. Any battery that is just made of this stuff, like, we have nailed it. It is a figured out technology, and any improvements with this technology is going to be very limited. You have to add other things, and you have to change it up just a little bit to hopefully get that next innovation in batteries. Charging time is great. Still more information before I say that, electric cars have all of the kinks figured out. So there you go. There's that one. Some of these other stories that we could definitely do. The reason I'm on the fence about this one, I don't know if it's really tech news. The heir to Samsung, J.Y. Lee, is going back to jail for bribery, and he's been sentenced to 2.5 years after his first prison term was cut short. So, yeah, I think people like that one. It's almost cathartic for them that, like, a billionaire would be sent to jail and is being put in prison for 30 months. Although, as I recall, his first jail sentence was 5 years. Or no, I'm sorry, 12 years. It was a 12-year sentence. And that was eventually whittled down by his lawyers and in the appeal court down to 30 months. All of this, by the way, if you don't know what he did, bribery. Yeah. He was jailed for 5 years back in 2017, but walked free after just a year when his original term was suspended on appeal. And they overturned that decision and ordered a new trial back in August of 2019. So obviously, let's see, he did this because, Lee may be unable to make major decisions for Samsung at a crucial time when demand for its memory chips and other products are sky high. Korea and Samsung in particular have attained more prominence of late because of US-China relations. The sentence was based in part on the court's evaluation of independent compliance committee set up by Samsung to monitor wrongdoing by executives. His legal woes are not over because he's also on trial for fraud and stock manipulation. This gentleman did everything that an executive, I guess, could be expected to do wrong. Bribery, manipulation, fraud, everything. So hope that works out well for Samsung. He's still the heir to the company. We'll find out. Another update, Paramount, and we'll get a little bit further into this one, although it should be pretty obvious. CBS All Access. CBS All Access. If you are one of the 4 people that subscribe to the service, then check this one out. It's going away, but it's being replaced with Paramount Plus. They said that Viacom CBS has revealed that Paramount Plus, because hey, if Disney Plus is anything to go by, it's pretty successful. Paramount Plus. Its expansion and rebranding of All Access will launch in the US on March 4th. The streaming service will come to the Nordic countries on March 25th, Australia in mid-2021. It takes forever to ship digital goods to Australia. I understand that completely. And Canada later in the year, although Canadians will see the rebrand right away. Paramount Plus is ultimately a bid to compete with NBC Universal's Peacock, Disney Plus, HBO Max, and other network-oriented rivals. Where All Access, which was originally focused on CBS and internet-only originals, the new offering includes shows from a host of Viacom CBS channels, as well as Paramount's movie library. In theory, you'll have a reason to subscribe beyond following the latest Star Trek series. Whether or not it works is another matter. There's a much larger catalog, but competitors also have exclusives for popular classics like The Office and Friends, 2 that they always go to because each one costs about, I think those cost like $1 billion, even though they're like 25 years old. In the case of like Friends, about 25 years old. Yeah. still like $1 billion. There's also concern of subscription fatigue, and people may be willing to sign up for so many services. Paramount Plus is an easier sell than CBS All Access, but it might be too much for someone already struggling to keep up with or afford their queues on other services. The way that I understand this among other, just my personal life, just asking people and hearing about this, they'll subscribe to something for a month or two. As long as they're still enjoying the service, they won't have any reason to leave it. They're good to go. But as soon as there's nothing else to watch, they thumb through it. They're like, I think I've gotten all I can out of this. They'll subscribe to Hulu. They'll subscribe to Disney Plus. As long as there is new content and engaging content, they're good to go. They don't have these contracts or this loyalty for kind of this continual thing like cable subscription had. So these streaming companies, there's subscription fatigue. No one in their right mind should subscribe to all of them. That's a little beyond the pale. At that point, just get cable again. But if you are, if you're looking for things to watch and to keep it fresh, there's nothing wrong because of the way binging works. Subscribing to Netflix for 2 months, CBS All Access for Paramount Plus for 2 months, Disney Plus for a month, Hulu for 2 months, HBO Max for 2 months, and essentially you kind of work your way through, and anything that you missed in the interim when you did not have that subscription, you go ahead and you watch it then during that 2-month period. And that kind of rotation, it saves people money because you get to watch everything that you want to watch. Maybe not right away, but you'll be able to watch it eventually. But that just means that there's less money going out to everyone because everyone's only getting that money sometimes, not continuously. So from my understanding, that is how a lot of people watch streaming channels. Subscription fatigue is definitely a thing. If they market it right and people just know about it, it should be successful enough because people are always looking for something new and something entertaining to pay attention to. I think with that being said, let's go ahead and move on to our next story. Paramount Plus, by the way, again, replacing CBS All Access. Don't be surprised. Let's talk about Brave real quick. If you haven't heard about Brave, it's a web browser. It's kind of like, make sure I have this right. Brave is a web browser, if I'm not mistaken. It's I know how they have their own search engine. Yes, their web browser. It's really used in the Linux community because it's free, it's open source, it's developed openly among people, it's very privacy focused. They're not collecting your data any more than they have to. It's fast, it's secure, all that kind of thing. They are what DuckDuckGo to web searches kind of promises to be for web browsers. Now, Brave is a service that lets you do all that. And now they're taking steps to take it a step further, which is something that the open source community is really on board with, and that is a peer-to-peer IPFS protocol that would make a decentralized internet possible. And this means that as long as this kind of takes off, they have enough nodes, they have enough people participating in this, and it's fast and reliable. That means that individual governments cannot turn off the internet. That means that individual websites cannot be blocked. That means that, hey, the internet is the internet is the internet. There are no arbiters. There are no people who control it. Countries cannot turn it off when they don't like the spread of information. It's just open and free. That's the goal. Now, in a move it says will help make the internet more transparent and resilient. Also, the fact that no one can take it down means that natural disasters cannot take it down either. Privacy-focused browser Brave now offers fully integrated and native IPFS browsing. Interplanetary File System, as it's known by full name, is a peer-to-peer protocol for hosting web content, and it could make the idea of decentralized web a reality. So here's how it works, according to Engadget. When you visit almost any website on the internet today, a centralized server transmits the information you want to see via HTTP or HTTPS. By contrast, IPFS uses a network of distributed nodes to get the same data to your computer. And as Motherboard points out, a close parallel to IPFS is how BitTorrent works, peer-to-peer. So a good way to think about this is, let's say you're watching a YouTube video. You open a YouTube video. That video starts to buffer and be transmitted from Google's servers that they're running. Now, before you can watch a video, as everyone knows, you have to watch an ad. That ad is brought to you by a different server that's usually run by AdSense or whatever other ad company that is serving you that ad. They have their own servers. So their central server delivers the ad to you, usually hyper localized and that kind of thing. And then you can go back to the other service, which is transferring you your video, which is, by the way, why ads look so crystal clear and your video looks choppy and compressed. Now, imagine instead of two, everyone who used the internet in some small way contributed to storing the data and pulling it and then assembling it on your end. So instead of seeding from just two large companies that have all the information, all the data stream, all the data flow, you are now getting your information, really the information from, let's say, computeramerica.com. You pull that from 10,000 people around you. And each one of them has a little bit of the code, and they can build your website relatively fast, very quick, and very efficiently. That's the goal of peer-to-peer. It's seeding, that data's out there somewhere. It's fully distributed everywhere and, in some small part on everyone's systems. And yeah, it's delivered to you very, very quickly because you're not asking that server from across the world, across the globe, across the country to send it to your computer, but no, it's just everyone around you is able to fulfill your request. And of course, all of it's encrypted. All of it would be, it'd be very hard to track what information is coming where and where's it going, because information is even coming to and from your system as you're using it. So not even like companies like Google would be very against this idea because they make a lot of their money tracking users and being able to see where their users go, what they're looking at, how long they stay there, so on and so forth. That would be impossible on a system like this. Now, the protocol brings with it several advantages over HTTP. One of the big ones is to make browsing the web faster, since you'll be able to access websites through nearby nodes instead of servers in far-off locations, as I just said. It could also reduce operating costs for publishers since they won't need to invest as much in expensive server hosting. However, by far the most significant way that IPFS could change the internet in that it would make it difficult for governments to censor specific websites. Because right now, governments, private organizations, they say, where is this website being hosted? And I think a good example to current events would be Parler. Amazon says, oh yeah, they paid us to do that. The government says, the government or the companies themselves say, take Parler down. And that wouldn't be possible in a peer-to-peer network like this because, hey, Parler's everywhere. It's being hosted on 100,000 different computers all across the world. It's distributed. It's not centralized. You can't just take it down like that. Now, they have a quote here from Brave saying that today, web users across the world are unable to access restricted content, including, for example, parts of Wikipedia in Thailand, over 100,000 blocked websites in Turkey, and critical access to COVID-19 information in China. Now, anyone with an internet connection can access this critical information through IPFS on the Brave browser. In that same way, IPFS would make websites more resistant to the kind of enforcement action that we saw Amazon take against Parler earlier this month. Of course, more browsers will need to adopt and implement the protocol before this is realistically a possibility. With 24 million monthly active users, Brave is a growing player in the browser space, but it's by far not the biggest one. It would take a giant like Chrome, which has about 1 billion users since 2016, to make the decentralized web a real possibility. And let's just face it, it may have a lot of advantages, but if it doesn't have the user base, if they don't have the people, the nodes, if the infrastructure is just not there, it's just not going to happen. There's no way a system like this doesn't work if it's not the majority way of it working. You can start accessing IPFS content by installing the latest version of Brave, and starting today, that's when they implement it. So I applaud Brave for doing this. There has been a lot of talk about decentralized, and I think even Tim Berners-Lee has even talked about the person who is credited with starting the first internet, or at least creating the World Wide Web. Even he has expressed remorse over not making sure that the internet was more decentralized and that it needs to be redone from the ground up. It's something that, in hindsight, probably should have been done from the beginning for access to information, but hey, better late than never. Speaking of access to information, speaking of something that we can transition to pretty smoothly, another celebration for Wikipedia. Just last week, they celebrated their 20th year anniversary, their 20th birthday as a service for Wikipedia. And Wikipedia, I think most people would say, has been a really good thing. I have spent a lot of nights going down the rabbit hole of chasing link after link and reading about the dynasties of the European royalty and how far Spain goes back, like 17 generations, all in a straight line until you hit, or not Spain, Germany, with all these different name figures that I can't even remember a single one, but yeah, a lot of very specific information that no one really needs, but you have access to thanks to Wikipedia. And on top of their 20th birthday, now you're looking at the English language Wikipedia just had its 1 billionth edit. This is a free open source encyclopedia, is a monument of human cooperation and collaboration. Just after 1 a.m. on January 12th, a prolific Wikipedian edited the entry for the album Death Breathing. The small edit was the addition of a hyperlink, and it was the billionth edit done to the English language Wikipedia, saying that the article on the album Death Breathing was amended by Wikipedian Sir Amancio di Nicolau, one of over 3.9 million edits done by the Wikipedian, with the highest edit count other than bots. I did not know that. So he's actually very prolific, higher than anyone other than bots, saying that a listserv that documents various Wikimedia matters. Wikipedia relies on volunteers who consistently assess, edit, and argue over the specifics of the information in its vast online encyclopedia. Every edit is cataloged, tagged, and assigned a unique URL when it's pushed through. The Death Breathing edit just secured the 1 billionth. And they even have a link to it here. Let's go ahead and give that a go. Yep, there you go. Speak of the devil. So you can even see, up here, well, I have it cut off here in the video portion, but index, title, Death Breathing 100 or 1 billion. Right up there. Very, very cool. So, with that being said, The announcement on Wikimedia's listserv noted that this is only the billionth edit if you don't count the early years of Wikipedia when it had yet to migrate its own servers and software. Pedants may be aware that this is only the 1,000 millionth since the move to the Wikimedia, and not all of the hundreds of thousands of previous edits have been re-uploaded. So if we could work out the true count since edit 1, since it probably came one. I'm sorry, true counts since edit 1, it probably came 1, maybe 2 days earlier. Saying, quote, I don't have the exact numbers, but there were definitely many edits that aren't recorded in the current system. And essentially, Wikipedians doing what they do best, which is be pedantic. So, one point that isn't made enough when discussing Wikipedia is how much of Google's wealth is built on its abuse of Wikipedia copyleft. Strange. Wikipedia copyleft. Yeah. Now, but Death Breathing got the edit with the 1,000 million counter, and that's what Wikimedia said. So, 1,000 million. Yeah, so 1,000 millions is, of course, a billion. Very, very cool. Wikipedia is for what it is and how it came to be, it is really amazing how well it turned out, because there are segments of Wikipedia that have been overlooked that are real problems, but they have they've definitely done their job, and they do it pretty darn well. So okay, there's that article. Let's see, we have time for a couple more. Let's talk about Mt. Gox. If you haven't heard of Mt. Gox, then Bitcoin really is not in your life, and I congratulate you for that. But we can check this one out. This one from Engadget, saying that Mt. Gox exchange users may finally get to recover some of their lost Bitcoin, saying that 90% of the remaining Bitcoin could be available to creditors. And when Mt. Gox went bankrupt in 2014, it was the world's largest Bitcoin exchange, holding 850,000 Bitcoin from thousands of users. And to be clear, what is the price of Bitcoin? Price of Bitcoin, you're looking at currently at $36,000, down from its recent high of about $41,000. So about 37, still plenty high. And an exchange is how you change Bitcoin from Bitcoin to other cryptocurrency, Ethereum, Litecoin, what have you. Or you change it into a different kind of currency, whatever the local currency is, US dollars, British pounds, whatever. And that's all the exchange does, is take in Bitcoin, spit out cash. And they do it based on kind of time of sale and how much it's currently worth. If it goes bankrupt, it's essentially like, robbing the bank or your local bank going up, except there's no FDIC. There's no one to ensure that your money gets back to you in any kind of even small way. No, you're just out if this goes up in smoke, and it kind of did. Now creditors may finally be able to get a portion of those riches back. One of Mt. Gox's largest creditors, CoinLab, said in agreement with itself, Mt. Gox's bankruptcy trustee and another group might allow creditors to receive as much as 90% of the remaining Bitcoins, according to Bloomberg. The agreement would allow investors to either cut their losses and take early payment, or wait for the litigation to finish and possibly recover more. If they agree to the early payment, however, they could have to wait for some time to receive their coins. Up to 90% of the remaining Bitcoin could be offered upon, but that plan still needs to be approved before anything can happen. Some of the digital coins have been recovered since the exchange went bust, but much of it is still lost. For each Bitcoin that has a bankruptcy claim on it, the estate only has 0.23 coin to distribute. On the positive side, Bitcoin traded at $489 when Mt. Gox went bankrupt, and is currently trading at about $37,000 as of this writing, about 75,000 times higher. That means that if you had 100 Bitcoin worth about $50,000 back in 2014, you could now have as much, although, yeah, so I see what they're saying here. If you had 100 Bitcoin worth about $50,000 in 2014, you can now receive 23 Bitcoin, because again, only 0.23 compared to, for every Bitcoin that they lost. You can now have 23 Bitcoin worth about 850,000. So still a large return, but you can see how 850,000, 850,000 times its current going rate of, let's say, 37,000 equals, that's too many zeros. 36 would be worth about, $31 billion, something like, or even more than that. Let's see, 100,000 $31,450 million. $31 billion is a lot to lose, and to only be able to recover, a couple billion of that is devastating. Mt. Gox litigation has dragged on in part because of a $16 billion claim by CoinLab that observers have called the elephant in the room. However, the new agreement could allow smaller investors to recover their funds. Back in 2019, former Mt. Gox CEO was found not guilty of embezzlement related to the bankruptcy, but was convicted of record tampering and receiving a 2.5-year suspended sentence. It's a mess. It is certainly a mess, and it was back then. It continues to be now. I even saw another update to the gentleman who lost his Bitcoin hard drive, and he's offering like $70 million to the city if the city excavates the dump where they believe it was lost. This Bitcoin surge has really brought out the weirdest in people. So I think that's what we're going to do for that one. And how about we go ahead and move on to our next story? Okay. How about, real quick, we'll touch on what happened at the Capitol with the FBI. And, well, the recent development here was that during the Capitol protest that happened out there, it's this whole thing that happened here was that when they came in, regardless of what you thought of that whole protest and rally and that whole kind of thing, confidential private property was stolen, or private property, senators' laptops, what have you, were stolen. And this article today, this woman arrested yesterday, saying that FBI investigating whether Capitol assault suspect tried to sell Pelosi computer to Russian intelligence service. Which, to be fair, if you have this thing, no news agency in the country is ever going to touch this thing with a 40-foot pole. They know where it came from. They know that, hey, maybe the content on it is interesting. Maybe the content on it is everything that they could hope for. But the moment that you publish where it came from, your company is now in a legal battle with the United States government as to why you are paying someone for stolen property. No one in the entire United States of America would ever touch this thing. Now, with that being said, selling it to the Russians is probably your next best way out. And the FBI is investigating whether a woman who allegedly participated in the January 6th assault on the U.S. Capitol stole a computer or hard drive from the office of Nancy Pelosi, with the intention of selling it to Russia's intelligence service. According to an FBI criminal complaint filed in federal court in D.C. on Sunday, a witness called the FBI on a tip that a Harrisburg, Pennsylvania woman is seen in a video published by ITV, a British broadcasting network, depicting Williams' presence in the Capitol during the riot. The witness told FBI he or she was formerly a romantic partner of Williams, and the witness claimed to have spoken to a friend of Williams who allegedly showed the witness a video of Williams taking a laptop or hard drive from Pelosi's office. The sale to Russia fell through, according to the witness account described by the FBI, and Williams still has the computer device or destroyed it. The matter remains under investigation, as the document stated. So with that being said, it appears that Williams has fled, according to the document, sometime after January 6th, changed her telephone number, and deleted what I believe was her social media accounts on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Reddit, Telegram, and Parler. Woo, really went off the radar. Williams' mother told local law enforcement that her daughter packed up a bag and left, telling her mother she would be gone for a couple of weeks, but did not provide information about her destination, according to the complaint. Screen grabs from the ITV video appeared in the complaint. Williams appears to be wearing a brown coat and green shirt. They're grasping at anything that they can. And, yeah. So with that being said, yep, just up and left, and that's it. Not a good place to be. Stealing federal property and, of course, trying to sell it to the Russians. If the FBI were not mad at you for trespassing on government property, boy howdy, are they going to be mad at you for trying to sell state secrets to an adversary. And ladies and gentlemen, I think that's what you call treason. Like, really, that is the the straight up definition of treason. It's not good. And of course, selling of state secrets, definitely not good. Let's go ahead and continue on here. By the way, this whole fallout from the SolarWinds hack continues to be a big problem. The latest admission was Malwarebytes, saying that its emails were breached by the SolarWinds hack, and we're going to have this trickle of information out from all these different companies as they discover they were part of the SolarWinds hack themselves. Not a good thing to do. Let's go ahead and let's see, we have time for like one more story. And looking through the different articles that we have here, how about covered a lot of these, ladies and gentlemen. I'm really sorry. Not often that we usually run out of these things. Okay. How about some rumors? At this point, we've covered a lot of news. It's been a lot of fun. But, yeah. Let's go and talk about rumors. And Apple Car. I'm going to follow this thing until it actually becomes a thing, and I'm so looking forward to it. Apple Car production again linked to Kia Motors' U.S. plant in Georgia, saying that Hyundai intends to transition the company's Apple Car involvement to its Kia brand as part of an internal arrangement that could see production move to the U.S. And saying that on Sunday, Korea IT News reported that Apple and Hyundai are seeking a partnership agreement for the upcoming Apple Car by March, and that the electric vehicles could be made at a Georgia factory owned by Kia Motors, a Hyundai Motor Group affiliate. I had no idea that Hyundai and Kia were a thing, but makes sense. First spotted by iMore, Korea's eDaily today added its own take on the reports that Hyundai plan to hand off the project to Kia, which could see manufacturing take place in the Georgia plant, saying that, quote, "It is known that Hyundai Motor Group, which received a proposal from Apple for electric vehicle-related cooperation, has internally arranged that Kia Motors is in charge of the project. If Kia decides to do this, the Apple Car production base will be at Kia's Georgia plants in the U.S." I gotta say, I love it. I love it when more production and more manufacturing comes back to the United States. Yeah, they're saying that it goes on to say that despite the reports that Hyundai is in a pole position for Apple's car manufacturing, the Korean company has decided that it is not suitable for the Apple car business because of its strong will to continue the Hyundai brand. In addition, it does not intend to become an OEM factory for Apple cars. The report concludes that by stating that Hyundai is still cautious and that the move has not yet been decided. Rumor that Apple is in negotiation with Hyundai were first received last week, suggesting that Apple is planning to work with the automaker to produce the electric vehicle and develop batteries due to the high cost of the technology and the necessary production facilities. So Hyundai initially confirmed its electric vehicle discussions, and then they revised it a little bit later with no mention of Apple. Essentially came back and said, oh yeah, we're in talks with Apple. And then Apple said, hey, shut up. And then they said, oh, we're in talk with someone. We won't say who. Could be anyone. And that's where we're at now. Reuters last month reported that Apple Car production may begin around 2024. However, a report from Bloomberg last week said that the Apple Car is nowhere near production stage and should be available in 5 to 7 years. The 5 years seems pretty likely because, again, what Apple is producing is not going to strictly be an Apple car. It is more likely it's going to be an Apple branded car that is going to be kind of like the style of Apple, the entertainment of Apple, and the integration of Apple, or the lack thereof, and it's just going to be a Kia car on the inside. But it's still going to be cool. I can't wait for it. I love seeing Apple come out with new products, and man, I can't think of a new product as big as a car. So everyone, thank you so much for tuning in to the show. Tune in tomorrow as we have, I believe, Derek Shawnee joining us. And everyone, until next time, thank you so much. We'll catch you here. Bye, everyone.